Good evening, everyone. My name is Cara McCarty, and on behalf of Cooper-Hewitt National Design Museum, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this evening's program. This event is a culmination of a wonderful collaboration over the past couple of years between the museum and Fernando and Humberto Campana, known as the Campana Brothers. For the past few years, the Cooper-Hewitt has had this very special program called Collection Select, when they invite artists, designers, writers to come in and mine the collection, something many people in the public are always asking us about, wanting to come to the back rooms. Well, we open the storage areas to these guest curators and ask them to come up with a theme and make an exhibition for us, which is in the Marx Gallery on the museum's main floor. The Campana Brothers Select exhibition is the 7th in the series, and for those of you who have seen the exhibition, I think hopefully confirm that it is a wonderful, harmonious installation. It shows the collection beautifully, and for me, it's a great looking opportunity because there's a wonderful consistency to the works that there is, to me, very much a profile of the work that Humberto and Fernando create. The sense of interweaving, interlacing, textures, colors that one finds throughout all of their work, I find in the selection that they made. In terms of the 7 shows that we've had up there, I think it's one of the most harmonious and concise exhibitions. At the end of the exhibition up there, there's a woven chair called Transplastic, which I hope that they will tell us more about this evening. It was a piece that was a culmination of their experience with us and is a woven piece. It's a combination of nature, plastic, synthetics, and has a whole story behind it, which I will have them tell you tonight. As with several of our collection exhibitions, it is a piece that was made specifically for us. It's unique, and it has now entered the Cooper-Hewitt's collection. Tonight, I would like to invite Humberto and Fernando Campana up to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also tonight we have joining us 2 very close collaborators of Humberto and Fernando's. Guiliana Michelotti, who is a jewelry designer in her own right, and a collaborator with Edra, the Italian manufacturer, and its U.S. representative. And Roberto Stern, President and Creative Director of H. Stern, a jewelry company. And also a collaborator with the Campana Brothers for the past 10 years. What we'll do is have a little discussion amongst ourselves, and then we would like to open up this evening to a Q&A session with the public, because I'm sure you're dying to ask questions, and if you haven't already heard Humberto and Fernando speak, you'll find that they're most marvelous storytellers and very engaging, so we're all very lucky to have them. One of the things Humberto and Fernando told me early on is that they love a challenge. And in fact, one of the ways that they determine whether or not they're going to take on a project is whether it provides a new challenge to them. So I think this was the first time you were curators, and maybe you can tell us about what it was like to be a curator.
Well, I'm Fernando. Good evening. And I think I have to tell him first because I came here first in a delayed flight in the morning of springtime, and I didn't know what could happen for me that day because I knew the museum, I love it, but the architecture itself, there is an imponence that I said, my God, I have to make a choice for me, for my brother, and also to show to the people. And it was a surprise, because I found like a house where every department received me so well, and everything that we have asked to be brought from the archives came in a certain red way, round way, because I took one morning to visit more than half of the departments and just the afternoon to the rest. And for me it was a kind of gift, because everything that I want to see, I got in front of me, shown by very nice people. And we didn't want to be pretentious in creating something very philosophical or historically connected. We wrote in our presentation that I like or I dislike, or my heart beats or not. And when I came back to Brazil, I showed Humberto by bidimensional images the things that I have chosen, and it was amazing, because very few difference were between my opinion and his opinion. Then he came back later on, and maybe he can.
Well, for me to make the choice in this project, I try to put my eyes like a child when my father took me to São Paulo, because I was used to live in a small town. So I try to remember the trips that I have done to buy Christmas presents in big stores. So I put my eyes in that sense, you know, to be amused by what colors, what textures, or emotional I came through.
No comparison between the collection and Bloomingdale. No, it's just a joke. I know you understand, but that was for us something completely new. And I have the same impression to coming to New York and have a museum open for me. I feel like a child in a department store, because you have the contact and access to things that not everybody has.
One of the wonderful things for the curators at the museum here, and all the staff, as a matter of fact, that's an outcome of these collection select exhibitions, is that we see the collection now anew, with new eyes, often in ways that are not typical of works that Western curators would select for their own exhibitions. So it's a great way. We learn, it's a great way to expose the collection to the public, and it's usually always a win-win situation.
But we are from the West.
Pardon?
We are from the West.
Oh, but I mean, as opposed to, yes, I know. I know.
I'm joking.
But also, another thing you said, Fernando, is talking about emotions, and the subtext of this exhibition was manufacturing emotions.
Exactly.
Can you talk about that in your selections, or?
As I mentioned before, is by the passion, when I feel emotion on seeing something. I believe in our work, whenever we are happy with something that we have made, a prototype or a commission, or even a choice for an exhibition. I guess
our work is like that, you know, it's tell histories, you know, it's something behind the design, you know, it always has an history to tell, something connected to a portrait of some emotion, some memory.
Well, what moves us on to create something as beautiful as we have saw, we say always, I mean always we, because we're just one sometimes, that whenever we see a movie or we listen to a music, I say, I want to do something as good as David Lynch or Kubrick or Polanski, but not to copy it. I believe on this, it's not a copy, but to stimulate. Humberto says always, design is about contamination. Whenever you contaminate people to do things in the same way, but in a different language.
As we were contaminated by Frank Gehry, Shiro Kuramata,
Yes.
Lina Bard in Brazil, Niemeyer.
Now, your works have a wonderful tactile quality and visceral quality to them. Absolutely. Tell us how you first became designers, because Humberto, you were trained as an attorney and even a practicing attorney.
Exactly. Well, normally we say that the profession, the career design came unto us. I didn't want to be a designer. It happened accidentally. In a trip in the Colorado River, I was rafting the Colorado River for 2 weeks. And one day my boat flipped in a whirlpool. At that time I was working in sculpture. So the confrontation with the death, I made a chair which was a spiral, something. Then I come back, I designed that, we made the
also
chair.
the Indians and Azazis pictograms he saw in the
rocks.
Yes.
The rocks.
And then I made this chair very heavy, very uncomfortable. Then Fernando, I saw the piece that was taken from the iron, and he made another chair.
More, let's say, in lines, lighter than...
Less comfortable.
A little bit more. My background is architecture, so I could have some, but in spite of never being a projector constructing a house, 25 years now, and with this I had more of the disproportion, because during the school days I noticed that my scale, or it was the scale of the object, the visual communication, things more in a smaller scale as furniture, so I could contribute, but not as heavy as his chair was. And then we start making a collection of pieces, always in iron. Until a certain point we decide we must do something that has relation with the comfort, with the production, and also told by architects or designers or journalists that always gave us some tips or signs that we were alert to follow them.
When did you first link up with, was it Edra was your first Italian manufacturer?
No, in fact it was Olucci. We made a lamp for Olucci in 1997.
1997. In terms of furniture, was Edra. Lighting, Olucci.
And this year we have the collaboration, 10 years with Edra, making projects with them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did they find you, or did you find them?
No, they found us. We always, we had a tour with the high school kids, and one of them asked us, how did you connect yourself with companies, with the media? I told them, always we had a slide, a diapositive, that time didn't have and we always sent we used to see in the editorial of magazines like Vogue, Elle, or Abitari, Domus. And so who is responsible for design? We used to send a letter, handmade, this is my work, I would love you to take a look on it. If you like, please contact me. Always like that. And we had good response every time. So we start being published by magazines. And then once Mel Byers, he made that series of books, 50 chairs, 50 lamps. He asked us to the project of Germania Chair, photos, and the book was in terms of showing the production, what was behind the final product and the product. And was published, and also Massimo Morosi, the art director of Edra, saw the chair in a book. We made the chair in 1993. From 1993 and 1997, we just sold 5 pieces in Brazil, begging for people to buy it, because it was considered sculpture. Then Massimo Morosi one day phoned me in Brazil, says, I'm art director of Edra. I say, okay, Edra. Even in Italian, he said Edra. I said, okay, I'm Fernando Campana, from Studio Campana. How are you? He said, I want to produce that rope chair. he's a crazy guy. He's not telling me, because there in this chair there are 450 meters of ropes woven. So how he can ask me a project of this chair? I shall make connecting dots to explain, and then I consult someone in São Paulo. Says, no, it's a serious company, very ahead, or you must do that. Oh my God. Humberto was traveling. When he came back, we said, how can you express this thing?
This process, the construction.
Technical drawing is impossible. We made a video. Humberto weaving the chair, and I was videotaping him. And then we made an edition, step by step, how to make the chair. So that was the link. When they received the video and everything, and they said, we love it. It was very direct, very quick communication.
And they were so enthusiastic about the video that one of the ideas was to bring just the iron structure and give the video to the consumer for him to weave it. Italians, you know.
Oh, I know.
Fellini, yeah, that's the...
If I were a furniture designer, I would love to work with an Italian manufacturer. I mean, this wonderful spirit of can-do spirit and innovation. And tell us about how that was produced. Humberto, I think you told me that they found a basket maker.
Yes.
To actually create the chair.
Yes, it's Giuseppe. He was used to live in Sicilia. He was used to weave bottles for wine. So they invite Giuseppe to go to Edra, and we teach him how to weave it. And one of the commandments was to be very deconstructed, not precise, and with, you know, the concept was to each chair would be in a production, but each one would be different. At that time, the concept was this, you know, to bring humanity to the construction process.
And how many people at Edra are making these?
Just Giuseppe, and now he's teaching a successor, because whenever we go there, we have to get down on our knees, because fortunately, different from the 5 pieces we have sold in Brazil, it's been very accepted and kind of our best seller in mass production. And only Giuseppe has the power to do that, and patient. Whenever we go there, we get to say, Giuseppe, we love you, please keep alive. And then once he said, you made me do almost twice the tour of the world if we put every... He developed a method, like in a loft like this, he put the chair in the end, and he comes with a rope of chairs and go back and forward. First, it used to take 4 days to make it. Now it's 1 day and a half, which is for upholstery or something like that.
Wow, so much for mass production. Guiliana, do you, is this when you started working, or is this when you met Humberto and Fernando?
I met Humberto and Fernando at MoMA, at the first exhibit at MoMA.
Oh, right.
And I was there with Cristina Morozzi, who's the wife of Massimo, and also is a critic. So she told me, you need to go to see these guys because they are so fantastic. And that was the first time I met them, and I immediately liked what they did because it was very close with my idea of aesthetic. Very emotional, very using what was already there, non-inventing any product, just use what they find and what's there, they can make something beautiful about, and that was very fascinating for me. And from then, we've been close since 10 years now, and we see each other at least 2-3 times a year in Milan for the Salone, of course, and then many times here in New York. And every time is a party because when they come to New York, is Fernando's birthday, so
Don't
it's
forget
always
it.
always my job to organize a party for him somewhere. and I saw the work of Campana really improve so much. I was telling before to Humberto, I say, since I met you, the first time I remember the first evening we spent at Loft 69, and it was so, now they made so many things that's so beautiful, and they were like two shy boys from Brazil, and now they are almost the same, I must say. They didn't change too much, but a little more used to be with people.
Well, what I like about the Germania Chair, the one you were speaking about, it's the one with the red tangled rope, is that I remember when I first saw it, right after it came out, and I thought, upholstery has been something that designers have been applying to furniture for centuries, but it was really something new and a new way of working with upholstery, and immediately I acquired it for where I was working at the time. So is that one of is their best-selling pieces still?
Yeah, but maybe it become like a classic.
Yeah.
This is our business card. Whenever someone doesn't know us, we say, I made that chair. So people say, oh, you. And if I can make also a really funny mistake or coincidence, in the same year, we had this chair produced by Edra, shown in April by the Salon in Italy. And then in August, I received a phone call from MoMA. Paul Antonelli, the curator of design and architecture, said, are you happy with our exhibition? And I said, okay, are you bringing the MoMA exhibition to Brazil? She said, no, your exhibition along with Ingo Maurer. And I said, no, Paula, that time we used to work with fax, and our fax machine ran out of paper. She had sent an invitation in June. She went, and she said, are you being snobbish with me? I said, Paula, no, but I didn't receive anything. She said, I'm going to send you the formal letter for the exhibition. You have 2 months, about September and October. It was Thanksgiving,
yeah,
2 days before. I said, you have 2 months to ship and do everything. And we have sent 14 pieces, and we shared with honor with the space with Ingo Maurer, which coincidentally had an exhibition here
just
until so lost in communication.
What a great story. What about the Favela Chair? That's another one of your classics, the one that is made out of little strips of wood, and it's like an assemblage piece of furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also manufactured by Edra? And tell us about that.
Yeah, this is funny, because I made the chair because I like to work with the hands. In the 1993, it was a kind of observation how the people, São Paulo, everything that you put away in the streets, there is a kind of spontaneous way of recycling. So the people grab if you put a piece of slats, someone is going to pick it up and construct something, the house. And observing that, I collect lots of slats that I found in the streets. Sometimes people think that we go to the streets and gather things. No, but that time I did with the chair a representation of the favela of Rocinha in Rio de Janeiro, which is a huge favela incrustated in the mountain. And the construction, I tried to be very spontaneous as it was. Then Massimo Morosi, 10 years later, the art director of Edra, chose to make it production in series. But he wanted to do in Brazil, not in Europe.
I remember that.
Because he wanted to do something very true, So
to keep some values of the object.
Yeah.
and then we had to find someone, not the favela people. Probably they would not do in larger scale. We should find someone to get this spirit. And then we went to the southern part of Brazil in Rio Grande do Sul, where it's famous for furniture, wooden furniture producers. We found a German community, a German city. They barely speak Portuguese in that area, just the archaic German. And Humberto explained everything to them. Then they shipped the first container to Edra during the salon. It was accepted, everything was okay. When they made the second order, they shipped the things, and it was everything parallel and like Art Deco chairs. Because they produced more in a Bauhaus way. Very precise. We had to go back, Humberto had to go back there, went to the backyard of the factory and said, there was a pile of slats burning, said, look at this, I want this. Yeah, the chair. Now it's very ironic because it's a favela chair made by Germans in Brazil, exported to Italy, and resold in Brazil by euro prices. Brazilians are buying favela in another currency.
They have it in gold also.
No, there is in
we did a jewelry.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Then we have another derivations in gold as the collections that we have made for H10. But it's fun that we say in Brazil, the scent of the house doesn't make miracles. Nessun é profeta in sua própria terra, and no one is prophet in
I guess
its own land.
The chair, all the work that you do is a portrait of what we see, you know.
Just, you know, I think that's such a nice way to put it, because that's exactly how I felt when I saw your exhibition upstairs come together. I thought, this is really a profile of you, and the selections that you made, the harmonious installation, the inspirations that you've talked about with nature and insects, and the way that you've integrated materials. And it's just, it's upstairs is a profile, I think, of your way of working. Now, did this inspire some jewelry, were you saying, Roberto?
Yes, we did a collection inspired on the Favela Chair, because they showed me another vision of beauties. I walked in São Paulo. I live in Rio, which is very beautiful, and they live in São Paulo, which is very ugly. But they know how to search for beauty in São Paulo with a different eye, and that's what I learned, and I still use their vision for that. So they look at, you know, strange things, and look, Roberto, how beautiful, like, you know, some rusted material, something very, you know, like a favela, or like things. First day you say, wow, this is horrible. Second day you find it's interesting, and the third day you start understanding their creative process, which is at least the way we understood it. Is how to transform something very simple and remake it in something sophisticated, and how to find beauty in those things which are very around you, and you know, very simple, and they can see, and what people don't see. So São Paulo for me now is completely different, because I try to search for something interesting and make photographs also. And when I go to some place which people say that's horrible, I say, no, maybe I can have a Campana look here and make a transformation. And that's how we did the favela in gold, which came out beautiful.
I think it's a city that requires you, in order to live there and have good relation with the whole of the city, is to find beauty whatever doesn't exist. I say, for some people, foreigners, it's ugly, but it's beautiful. We have to find it.
You transform it.
Yeah.
They transform it, and that's their vision, and it's very, very unique.
It's such a nice way to put it. One of the words that I heard you say a lot this week is banal. You're always looking for the banal, but to make something poetic out of it. And in fact, I think your exhibition upstairs is an ideal looking experience because one can find consistencies from between one piece and the next. And so it's just a great exercise, a great educational opportunity.
Yes, because we try not to be as other countries do. You know, we come from Brazil, has not so sophisticated technologically. So I try to be what I am, you know, to focus on my roots. You know, because otherwise I will be speaking the same language like Scandinavian or Americans or German, and I don't want. I try to, you know, the big challenge is to make this alchemy, this transformation to, you know.
When we think through the simple process or anonymous creations, this is the good part of globalization that we can see in Africa or here or in Holland, people doing things, but from looking to the backyard first in order to talk to the world. So this is because the rest, if you try to be, we can be what most of the labels are. Or so initiatives like H. Stern, Edra, our research, or Guiliana's, that goes people that are not conformists, and maybe the treasure is in the banality, the daily life, the objects from our past, or the people, anonymous, that have, in case of Brazil, Afro-Indians, with the acknowledgement of the Europeans, then Asiatics. So we say Brazil is the modernity in Brazil is this melting pot of races, that we speak the same language from north to south, just with a little accent, and we can communicate, and this is unacceptable. Everybody is welcome.
I was in Brazil a few years ago, and I felt a great swell of optimism traveling through Brazil with all the richness of the different cultures there, as you said, a melting pot, but also a strong emphasis on crafts and the hand and the handmade. And I think that I appreciate very much what you're saying, and I think that right now and I'm finding that even in the United States and Europe, there's a much stronger emphasis again on the hand. We're seeing it in crafts and being introduced in design even more, the sense of the unique. If it's not unique, at least it looks unique and not perfect. And I see a great future in what could be coming out of Brazil. One of the things that's really interested me is that I've been looking at design for 25 years, and I cannot think of many names of designers from Latin America, and maybe that's my complete ignorance, but who else? Are there many other Campana brothers in Brazil today?
I guess it has a new generation, you know, focus. What is Brazil? What's the modernity of Brazil? You know,
but I think, as we were talking yesterday, we must take in consideration a gap that we had during '64 and '78 during the military dictator power in Brazil. That creation was totally banished, and Brazil should copy or should import other ideas. Yes, in terms of furniture, what do you think, Roberto? We had end of with Tenreiro, Sérgio Rodrigues, Lina Abad, and then practically Fulvio Nani came in the 80s. And now Brazilians are recovering the self-esteem to jump into the new.
Before, everything good was imported, actually. The Campana Brothers, I met through their work, actually the same occasion as Guiliana, in the Museum of Modern Art. The Campana Brothers, São Paulo, because I never saw them in Brazil. And then I looked for them in São Paulo. I said, I have to meet them. And that's how I met them. But they were not known as they are now in Brazil, because now people appreciate what is Brazilian. That's about self-esteem that you were speaking. Another topic, which is my angle about Brazilian design, is that for many years we are exporting the easy way, like the Brazilian, the Brazilian carnival, or the Brazilian, soccer, which is almost like a caricature of Brazil, which is nice when you go as a tourist and see those things. But today, the Brazilian design, it's very subtle. You sense, you have to be a little bit sensitive to know that comes from Brazil, because there's a little twist to it, but it doesn't scream that it's Brazilian. Before, you had almost to scream. People had to almost put a flag, and that's very good about the Brazilian moment, because Brazil has this diversity. You have Campana Brothers, and you have a few other people doing nice work, and maybe you don't know they are from Brazil. You find out, oh, they are from Brazil. Even H-turn people don't know, oh, H-turn is from Brazil. And so it goes on. And because it's not, and in this regard, Brazil is very fortunate, because some countries, they are stuck, like you have a preconceived idea what is Scandinavian design. Scandinavian design is like that. Not that nobody else creates something different, but you have a preconceived. Or even Italian design, for example, jewelry. Italian design, it's a lot of gold, etc. Even if you are different, there is a preconceived idea, because.
Tell me about.
Yes, so Brazil is having this different approach. So a lot of people do make success, and they're not known. So even in other areas which are not design, like dancing, modern dancing, it's very Brazilian. But when they do shows abroad, people say, well, it's not going to. People were expecting us to do a samba show, but it's not.
Right.
But if you look at it, there is a Brazilian twist.
Yes.
Even if the music maybe is sometimes not Brazilian, even if, even if we blend, because of our culture not being very old, we do what they do a little bit. We recycle. We borrow things from abroad very easily, and we transform it and do it in our way, because we cannot go to our archives in history 500 years, 600 years. We don't have the museums they have in Europe. We don't have this huge history to go back. So we have to borrow things. And that's how we are managing. During this period where he was mentioned, we were so close that people were very lazy. They were copying. They were not transforming. So now people are able to transform, to watch a movie, to see something from abroad, and give it a Brazilian interpretation.
And I think it's a continuation that was broken for the military dictatorship from the Week of Modern Art in Brazil, where Brazilians start establish a new word, anthropophagism, that you eat the foreigner culture, you digest it, and vomit in another way. Yes,
that's
yes,
that's the word.
Yeah, to appropriate from the other people's culture, but with our approach.
It was so funny, because the first mass that when Brazil was discovered, the Portuguese, and they made a mass. They brought a priest to celebrate and colonize the Indians. The priest celebrate the mass, then the Indians eat. ate the priest. So
his name was
cannibalism. Cannibalism started 500 years ago.
Tell us about the way you collaborate.
We collaborate. Well, I came back from the Museum of Modern Art. I said I have to meet them, and I met them. And of course, they are very hostile people, as you can sense here. It was very easy, and it was. And I said no, I'd like to do a jury project, and we challenged each other, and that was really nice. For them it was a challenge to think small, you know, like the details. No? I know a lot of designers like to think big. No? One question I have to ask: a lot of them like to do chairs, no? But
all of them.
But we have to do small things, small scale. So they have useful things. So we did some bigger pieces also. So we started to work not on using their try to understand their creative process and doing things together with our team of designers and themselves, and they were following up, and that's it exactly, you know. And the most difficult jewelry we made was the water drain. In the United States they don't have so many, but they have a chair which is table, a water drain. Very difficult to do it. So there were a lot of challenges in jewelry making, in techniques. We did a gold fur. Things were never done. So this was a huge challenge for us. And this collaboration, it grew so much because everything became spectacular. The jewelry, the catalog, the packaging. They saw something inside in the manufacturing. Oh, this is the packaging. Okay, this will be, and we did something very special. And the packaging won a prize also for design. So, and the project, for me, it still goes on because I still use their vision for some things. For example, I went to Búzios. I'm sorry for boring you.
No, please. Contamination.
I went to Búzios once, and it was, you know, it's like a Saint-Tropez close to Rio, and it's a cobblestone street. And usually it's very crowded and never rains there, but it was rainy and it was empty. So I took a photo and gave it to designers. Look, I'm behaving like the Campanas, do something. And we did a cobblestone bracelet.
Yeah, but I think it doesn't work just for us.
So these projects you do with people like them, they last much longer than the specific project. They last because you incorporate this vision to the company, to the designers, you have a new vision, you have a new approach, and this is very valuable. So a company working with them will not only have those products that we did. It's not only, it didn't finish on those products. We still have their way of thinking, which is amazing. So this is how I feel about it, and I still follow them. And now they are very famous in Brazil because people in Brazil have the tendency to only like when things are famous abroad. So they had to become famous abroad, and then famous in Brazil.
What a nice testament.
Yeah, I think that on the other hand, we learn how to work with details, how to finish the work in the whole process, because a collaboration that was supposed to take 6 months took almost 2 years until we launched the collection. During this time we had, and also to discuss about how can we make it better, respect and all those things. And whenever you have a company that believes or has this open mind or open the field for us to work on, it's amazing. we lose the frame of time or whatever, because every time there is a new. So it's true for the both sides.
One of the many things I appreciate about your work is the great variety, both in the materials that you've worked in, as well as the scale. Everything from jewelry to, now I understand you are doing set designs and costume designs, and perhaps you can tell us about what you did for the Ballet National de Marseille.
Well, I guess you, because in the beginning I was very insecure to take this project ahead. Fernando helped me to, after he started thinking, and then I went through, I emerged in the process.
Because until a certain point of our career, we used to work more with straight ahead to the prototypes, which we do, and Humberto has a good sense of putting the hands on design and seeing the things in the manual way. And now, by the commissions or other invitations we have to think in another way, in bi-dimensional floor plans, and it's fun because now I can put in practice my background in architecture, because I can read the things, and it's fun. Every time I have to translate to him how is a floor plan, how is the palco, the things that we have to move in another way, and
the stage,
and we cannot make everything in real scale. Sometimes we have to make maquettes, and I start understanding this process first, but both of us, we collaborate using low technology, more humanity, since the Ballet National de Marseille had a tradition in high technology of projections, lighting, machinery. Each year they invite a different architect or designer to design the stage. One year was Jean Nouvel, Zara Hadid, Tom Main. So we saw the other videos and said, it's impossible to get to this point, because even though they offer us the technology, we must have a language or have ideas to put. So we decided to go to the opera movements, like you see the manually or someone pushing the things, and we made a total different scenography, just resuming the technology for one screen in one side of the stage, showing images that the director would like to show. And it was, whenever we want a movement very slow, we put elastic. So the dancers, they moved the scenography.
And we made an immersion in the markets, in the streets of Marseille. We went to materials of constructions, flea markets, some people who sells bijouterie in the streets. So everything was done locally. With the dancers, we make some kind of workshops with them, and the costumes, we bought the materials and construct in the body of the dancers. So then I start to get enthusiastic about that, and
again, working with the local people, with the local materials, and with your hands, which.
Yeah, and new situation for us, not in Brazil, but in Marseille, in France, in Europe. So we think also the possibilities not being so regionalist, being only on Brazil, but now we see that we can find good solutions in Italy, here in the US or in France, and makes us more. There is more expansion in the creativity.
I'm going to open this up. I could keep asking, but I'm going to open it up to the audience. I'm sure there are people out there with questions. And there's a microphone over there. If you just raise your hand. Any questions?
What was your home like growing up, in terms of what did your home look like growing up?
Nowadays, a showroom of Edra, we received all the prototypes that we had the right as auto-proof, and looks like, but sometimes we have pieces from that didn't go well, prototypes or things that doesn't fit anymore in our studio, and we bring home. And also I like to pick up things that I find in the streets, like old armchairs or lamps, to stay with a while with them, and then they go to another place. The mobility of furniture is good. They are not stuck in the ground, so we can change.
Mine also is the same, you know. I like to, it would be cynic if I don't live with my pieces, you know. I try to prove to myself that they can be used.
Even the iron chair?
Yeah,
yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And my house is a big mess, you know. I don't like to be a designer house, you know. I like to be very chaotic, the way that I am.
there were one chair from the beginning, from those iron chairs that had many points, and I almost was stung by a friend of mine that could cut twice her leg on it. Then I decided to put it in a box and say, Tasmania devil, keep it.
In the exhibition upstairs, you selected a number of chairs from different time periods. Could you talk about how and why you selected those particular ones that are in the exhibition?
Well, they had this approach with woven or handcrafts, most of all. And we would like to show in different points of view, like one chair that's almost the objet trouvé with the branches of trees and connecting pieces to make the length of the legs, as the other more elaborate, like the horn chair, but all of them talking about either natural materials, either the woven process. Until we put also our rope chair, because we think it's a deconstruction of this process. It's another reading of the process. You're welcome.
Maybe actually while we're talking about the exhibition, you can talk about this chair, your transplastic chair that, for those of you who have not seen the exhibition yet, you're in for a treat, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit for us.
Talking earlier. No, it was we had made this chair and remade 10 times or more than 10 times, because to locate the pieces on it.
Well, but I guess the idea of working with this material, wicker, one of them is to recuperate traditions that is dying, you know, and the other, once I read in the newspaper that the Mediterranean Sea the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea is covered with plastic. So from that thing, I imagine a world that full of plastics, and then the nature start to being harmonious with the plastic. You know, they are living, burning from the plastic. And they start to grow into the plastic, make a fusion, something transgenic. So the idea, the main concept was that. And then this chair is a kind of revenge, the nature from the plastic. It's throwing the plastic all over, and again, nature. I don't know if I explained.
Yes,
Both projects, the invitation to our view in the collection, another project that was running on at the same time in London, the Transplastic exhibition in Albion Gallery, that we made our view in this case of the plastic. We thought, until the last century, beginning of last century, all the cafe chairs were made of wicker, out of wicker. In the mid-century, there was a substitution by fake wicker, plastic wicker. We saw in terraces, in homes, or public spaces. In the end of 80s, 90s, end of last century, everything was injection molded. And in Brazil, we have a horrible chair that is a white plastic that is inunding the beaches, clubs, or whatever. And we picked up those chairs and started making prostheses in wicker, like Humberto said, it's a revenge. The wicker was taking its place back. Until since we were working in the same, at the same time with the same concepts, we decided to make this chair all in wicker, now expelling pollution of plastic to become back. But it's a romantic point of view. Naive. But it's good to illustrate.
Well, we're thrilled to have it, and I think it's a, I think that when we look back in time at your furniture production, it's a real turning point, because it also seems to me that it's also encouraged you to start focusing back on Brazil and working with some of the local artisans in your studio. Can you tell us about that? And
yes, for this collection we have brought 3 people in our studio, more than the 9 that we work. And also for the project of Transplastic, we visit an Italian company that had a furniture line production of wicker, and they had just 2 people working. They were almost bankrupting.
In Brazil, this company?
Yeah. And during the execution of the pieces for Transplastic, 10 people came back to the factory. Now they think something, we cannot sponsorize them for the rest of our lives, but at least we gave back a lighting for...
But normally we say that our studio is a laboratory of experience, investigation. There is always someone investigating a new technique. We are creating, you know, we are in the same path, going in the dark without what is going to be, you know. And it's fun because it's always, it's very energetic. A lot of energy.
do you teach at any of the design schools in Brazil?
No, just workshops for Vitra Design Museum in France. And we had made twice in Miami Dash School in Design District by invitation of Arango store, David and Marianne. But it's very sporadic. We have taught in the university in Sao Paulo, but they split us up, each one with a group. It was a disaster. But
I heard that you're inseparable. You cannot work. You need to work as a team.
Yeah.
Another question?
Yes. Hi. I'd like to go back to the wicker chairs. Do you make the design for the wicker chairs, or they're found, or you get them from this factory, or?
In the case of this chair and the other one from Transplastic, it's very traditional. The design, the concept that is the blend between plastic and the wicker. But we have made those multiple seats. Like there is one here. That was this one.
I'm curious because they take on like this human shape. Like you can almost see them like walking across the floor or something. And these objects are sort of placed like, almost like a baby sitting on someone's lap, or these objects spring from a body, or it just, to my way of mind, they almost take a cartoonish kind of feel, which I mean is a compliment, but you know, like they're walking across the floor, the legs are sort of humorous and interesting, you know. Yeah.
Well, I try to put all my nightmares that I dream on that. Everything that's true.
Good dreams too, please.
I'm afraid, you know.
We're not going to sell a piece anymore. Good dreams too.
Very autobiographical. Another question? Yes, in front row.
Can you describe how you work together as a team, and who does what, and how does I mean, you are inseparable, so how does one of you come up with an idea and then build upon it?
Exactly.
Tell us about the process of designing for it, you know, how you create such incredible things.
He's more intuitive, bringing from the nightmares or dreams. He brings the images in the next morning we start reshaping it. Yes, that's true.
I'm much more obsessive to have something in mind. So if I have a project in mind, I can be calm, you know, because it's a kind of therapy for myself. I need some idea, project in my mind. Then I show to Fernando, and he start to kind of polishing, you know, so making it sophisticated. And also Fernando, also today we
changed the cycle is more or less, but one begins, the other one finishes. We never program, we are going to do a chair, to make a chair today. The studio moves from project to project or a new idea. Sometimes we stop everything for a new idea. It's not that we have to survive also. We survive from our ideas. Sometimes we stop a commercial project for a while to give place for a new idea, and then the next day we go. So it's not monotonous in terms of a dynamic. We have 11 people all together, sometimes 2 more, and everybody has to do everything. Deliverance, drink, creation, wash the dishes, and as we do. Sometimes we deliver the pieces whenever we have a client in São Paulo, and we don't tell that I go in a pickup, and I love to hear the criticism in the house. And so many people don't know us by physically, just as Campana. They never imagined that one of us could deliver one piece. And we go and we listen the works in the house, or people say, also Humberto entered inside a taxi and said, the guy said, who was the crazy guy who made this with the object? And that's to keep the more real as possible, because the recognition is good, everything is important. It's cynic if an artist say that he didn't work for have the clap of hands or have some money in the pocket, but at the same time you can be tricked by this
success.
Yeah, don't dream so much, because it's important to have the foot on the, not to lose the contact with your soul, I guess.
Not to be conformist, neither with the success, neither with anything. Not to be pretentious when I say that, but to go and search the best for your soul.
Sounds like parting words, but I think we'll have time for a couple more questions.
No, I don't. What your relationship as children? I mean, was it the same way as it is? Were you inseparable as kids, or?
No, it was different because we have 8 years difference. So now it hasn't shorted, but that time was so different. I was much more immature. So when we 25 years ago, when we started working together, we had more possibilities of dialogue, because it was such a big gap.
Doesn't sound like a computer is something that is part of your design work.
What?
Computer?
Stone computer.
No, our work is much more about hands, you know, hands-on constructing. Sometimes if you, I like to play with the elements, because sometimes by the mistake I learn, you know. You go, I want to make if I have something in mind, maybe it's so common. So I learn from this process of investigation. I go to the mistake, I try to see something that's not on my visual memory. It's much more about this with me.
But it would be nice if you would take a technological project.
No, I have some Lélia that our partner, they help us because there are much more demands in terms of projects. So it's, but I think
more human.
Also the condition of being in Brazil has something in our favor, to have working hands, not so expensive, and people specialize in handcrafts. So this comes in our favor. Don't need to express through the computer if we can make a real scale piece. We prefer even better to send to the client a prototype instead of many drawings or...
Any more questions?
I'll ask one. Where do you see the, right now we're going, you talked about the direction of handmade things, more unique pieces it was talked about. So where do you see the design world in relationship to the art world? And do you see yourselves more as designers, as artists? What do you all, I mean, that's a big question. When Ingo Maurer was here, he was also asked about that. You know, because his things are so crazy too, in a good way, he didn't want to think of himself as an artist. But where does the world straddle between, you know, design and art? And I mean, that's a big question today.
I guess I try to make bridges between art and design to make, I guess today the world, there is no boundaries, you know, can go and maybe I would like one day to make a chair out of images only, you know, that you, I guess.
Yeah, I can express better this because we have shared the same space with him in 1998. We were completely unknown, and he was a master already in terms of lighting. And someone asked Paolo Antonelli, the curator of the exhibition, why did she have chosen two different cultures or two different levels of, she said, they both pick up elements of the daily life or the archetypes of our furniture or lighting, but he interpreted with poetry. Doesn't matter if one is German or Brazilian, one is here, but the poetry was the link between both works in this project 6/6. I think that's it. Whenever try to think what's behind the sitting, what's behind a normal chair, what can we propose or not, or for me, myself, or for everybody to see, to have another view of that thing. Otherwise, we would be doing the same movie, the same book, telling the same history, nothing with creativity.
I think for me the boundary between design and art is that a designer has to apply art to a function. For example, if it's a chair, it has to be a chair. If jewelry, has to be a jewelry, has to be a shape, has to be usable. So what I tell our designers is that they have to follow a briefing or a brief. They have to be working in a group. They do it intuitively, but if you don't do it intuitively, you have to teach them how to work collectively with their art mind together on a project, and that's how design works. You have a purpose, you have a function, you have a, I don't know, a commercial purpose, you have a price point you want, you have a showpiece you want, or maybe it's something free. But what I always tell them is that it's not, designers are not artists, and they can, first of all, they cannot behave like artists. Because sometimes artists think that they are artists and they can do whatever they can. And artists can do whatever they want. They can, if they are sad, they can paint gray. If they're happy, they can paint rainbow. But designers, they do perform for companies. They do perform for function, and I think that's the boundary. So they have to be artistic, but they are not free to do whatever they want because they have boundaries of materials, of briefings, of working collectively, which they do intuitively, but others have to do it because it's a team. That's, for me, that's the difference.
Yes, and I think since our art lift back the function only to be decorative and start being a statement or witness of the time, design also follows the time. So somehow that's the crossing point. Whenever we put some witness of our time in an object, can be to make a criticism, can be to make it more comfortable, or according to the necessity. Computers, we work differently, or you sleep less, or you go to an airplane, you don't sit in the same way as 50 years ago. So in those points, there is an insertion of creativity and statement of how do we want to be. Communist or socialist can be more hard and colorful. And that's the point that I believe is allowing design to transit in other fields. We talk about our times somehow, through the chairs, through the way to light, or how to save energy, and how to not pollute it.
Seems like a good point to end on. Thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you, Humberto, Fernando, Roberto.